Have you noticed how stress doesn't always arrive as panic, but as a quiet tightening you carry through the day? Have you felt moments where everything appears under control, yet something inside remains slightly unsettled? Do you find yourself continuing forward, handling responsibilities without ever naming what's weighing on you? Have you observed how pressure tends to settle into routine rather than expression? Do you sense that rest feels incomplete even after effort has been spent? And have you wondered why stress often moves inward instead of outward for you? For many men, stress is not loud or dramatic. It is absorbed, organized, and carried silently. It becomes a background tension, managed through motion, structure, and responsibility, long before it is acknowledged as strain. Understanding this pattern changes how stress is approached, not as something to release explosively, but as something that needs containment, clarity, and direction. Stress does not always announce itself. Often, it settles quietly. It shows up as a tightening in the chest, a shortened temper, a persistent sense of being behind something unnamed. Many men recognize this state without labeling it. They continue working, they continue providing, planning, solving. Nothing appears broken from the outside. What makes this form of stress difficult is its subtlety. It does not interrupt function, it changes texture. Rest feels shallow, focus feels narrow. Even calm moments carry a low hum of unfinished business. This is not weakness. It is not failure to cope. It is a particular way pressure moves through a man who is oriented toward responsibility and direction. Understanding this does not require analysis. It requires attention to how silence operates inside effort. Many men process stress without outward expression, not because they are repressing emotion, but because their attention turns inward and forward at the same time. Stress becomes a background calculation. What needs to be handled, what cannot drop, what remains unresolved. This inward processing often looks like calm. It often feels like containment. But containment is not the same as resolution. Energy stays active even when no action is visible. Unlike emotional release, this form of stress does not seek expression. It seeks order. When order is missing, the mind stays alert, not anxious in the dramatic sense. Alert in the way a system stays online when something important is unfinished. Desire complicates this. Men are often pulled between what they want to build and what they must maintain, between movement and stability. Stress accumulates in this tension, not as panic, but as friction. Discipline plays a quiet role here, though not in the way it is usually described. Not as control, not as force, but as structure that reduces internal negotiation. When fewer decisions are left open, attention relaxes, not because life is easy, but because it is contained. Without direction, stress spreads. It touches everything lightly. With direction, stress narrows. It becomes specific. Specific pressure is tolerable. Diffuse pressure is exhausting. Many men notice that when they are aligned with something long-term, stress changes shape. It does not disappear. It becomes cleaner. There is less internal noise about what matters, less mental bargaining. This is why distraction rarely helps for long. It interrupts sensation, but not orientation. The moment silence returns, the unresolved returns with it, not loudly, persistently. The silent processing of stress is not about avoiding feeling. It is about maintaining coherence while carrying weight. When coherence weakens, stress increases. When coherence strengthens, stress becomes part of movement rather than resistance. Over time, The way a man processes stress shapes his identity, not through emotion but through posture, through how he meets pressure internally. Some men mistake constant tension for seriousness. Others confuse restlessness with ambition. Neither is accurate. Stress is not a signal of importance. It is a signal of unresolved orientation. When effort is applied without clarity, the system stays tense. When clarity is present, effort settles into rhythm. The same amount of work feels different depending on whether it is held by purpose or scattered across uncertainty. Self-mastery, in this sense, is not emotional regulation. It is attentional economy. What receives focus, what is left open, what is decided in advance. A man who understands his stress does not dramatize it. He notices where it gathers. He notices what it asks for. Often it asks for fewer directions, not more intensity. Identity stabilizes when internal signals align, when thought, effort, and direction point roughly the same way. Stress then becomes feedback, not burden. It informs without overwhelming. This does not mean life becomes quiet. It means the noise becomes meaningful. Pressure has edges, boundaries, a place to go. Many men discover that what they needed was not relief but containment, not escape but alignment. Stress did not need to be eliminated. It needed to be understood within a larger structure. This understanding changes how silence feels. Silence stops being threatening. It becomes informative. The silent way men process stress is often misunderstood, even by the men themselves. Because it does not cry out, it is easy to ignore. Because it allows function, it is easy to normalize. But inside that silence is information about direction, about coherence, about what is being carried without a clear endpoint. When stress is seen clearly, it loses its ambiguity. It stops leaking into everything. It becomes something that can be held without tension, not through force, not through explanation, through structure and orientation. There is a steadiness that emerges when pressure is no longer interpreted as a problem, but as a signal. A steadiness that does not announce itself, it simply remains. And in that remaining, the noise softens, not because life is lighter, because it is better aligned.